Good morning. This is a review of rounding numbers with decimals and math conversions. All right, so let's start with rounding. As a nurse educator, we find this is one of the most difficult things for students to grasp is how to round. All right, so this question's telling us to practice round to the nearest tenth. So this is the whole number, number 35. The decimal, the first number behind the decimal is the tenths place, so that is the 5. The next number is the hundredths place, which is 8, and the number after that is 9. That's the thousandths place. So we want to go to the nearest tenth. So when I'm looking at the 5 because that's the tenths place, and I look at what number's next to it. It's 8. So if that number's 5 or more, I need to increase this. So the answer would be 35.6, rounded to the nearest tenth. Number 2, let's look at this one. The whole number's 5. My tenths place is 0. The hundredths place is 4. The thousandths place is 9. So I'm looking to the nearest tenth, so I have a 0. I'll look at that number. It's less than 5. So the number would be just 5. We never use a 0 after and leave it so it won't be misinterpreted in orders, and somebody might think it's 50 because they didn't see the decimal. So we never leave a trailing 0. So the answer would just be 5. Number 3, 2.24. The nearest tenth is 2. Right here, that's the number I'm looking for. I look at the number next to it, which is the 4. So that is less than 5, so the nearest tenth would be 2.2. Let's look at number 4, 12.9103. So the tenths place is the 9. I look at the buddy next to it. It's less than 5, so the number would stay 12.9, rounded to the nearest tenth. Number 5, I have 59.99. The nearest tenth is this 9. And I look to the body, it's greater than 5, so I have to round up. When I round up, this makes this a 10, a 0, and I got to carry the 1, so rounded it would just be 60. All right, so let's look at rounding to the nearest hundredth. Sometimes you may have to round to the nearest hundredth. For example, when we're giving injections and the dose might be 0.25 of a milliliter, we can't just round up and say just to the tenth and give 0.3 because then that's too much medicine. So we need to be exact with that. So this is when we would be rounding a lot to the nearest hundredth. So number 1, 345, that is your whole number. The 4 is to the nearest tenth. The 6 is your hundredths place. So I'm going to look at the hundredths place and look at the number next to it. It's less than 5. So it's going to be 345.46. The next number is 25.069. So the hundredths place is 6. I look to the next number that's greater than 5, so the answer would be 25.07. Number 3, 12.246. My hundredths place is the 4. I'm looking at the number next to it, that's a 6, so I'm going to round this up to 12.25. The next number, number 4, 1.183. My hundredths place is the 8. I look at the number next to it. It's less than 5, so it's going to be just 1.18, rounded to the nearest hundredth. Number 5, 39.761. The hundredths place is the 6. I'm going to look to the next number. It's a 1, so it's less than 5. So this number rounded to the nearest hundredths is 39.76. Okay, rounding to the nearest whole number. So the whole number is anything to the left of the decimal point. So the first number is number 1. It's 85.45. So I'm looking at number 85. And what number's next to it, the first number, the tenths, is a 4. So that's less than 5. So I would just round that to 85. The next number is 225.63. So I'm going to look to the right of the decimal point. This is a 6. That's greater than 5. So I'm going to round this number to 226 for the nearest whole number. Next one's 12.59. 12.5, this is 5 or greater. I'm going to round this number to 13. 99.9, this number right here, that 9, is greater than 5, so I'm going to round this to 100. And the last example is 39.46. So 39.4, I'm looking at that 4. It's less than 5, so this number would remain just 39. Okay, so that's rounding to the nearest whole number. The next thing that we're going to talk about is converting weight from pounds to kilograms and kilograms to pounds. A lot of medicines that we give are based on a patient's weight in kilograms, so you need to know this conversion, that 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. Think of it, if you had your weight on your driver's license, you would much rather see it, especially for females, in kilograms because you weigh a lot less. The number's a lot smaller than what you would be in pounds. For example, if I weighed 110 pounds and I'm trying to convert that to kilograms, so I'm going to take 110 and divide it by 2.2, I would only weigh 50 kilograms. So that number's a lot smaller. Now, when we convert from kilograms to pounds, we take that weight in kilograms and we multiply it by 2.2. So it's going to be a lot more. So think you multiplying, so you're going to get a larger number. So if that patient weighed 100 kilograms and I multiplied it by 2.2, their weight in pounds is 220 pounds. So do you see how your weight in pounds is a lot more than it would be in kilograms? So if I weighed 220 pounds, I'd much rather see on my driver's license that I just weighed 100 kilograms. It looks nicer. All right, so here is our first practice problem. Patient weighs, we've got 45 pounds, and I need to see how many kilograms. And the question tells us to round to the nearest tenth. So when you round to the nearest tenth, I take 45 pounds divided by 2.2 kilograms. You should get something like 20.45454545. It keeps going. And I'm going to the nearest tenth. So it's 20.45. So because that 5 in the hundredths place, it's a 5 or bigger, it's going to be 20.5. That is your final answer for this rounding and for this practice problem. Let's go to the next practice problem. Joey weighs 165 kilograms. What is his weight in pounds? So what we're going to do to calculate this one, I'm going to take the weight in kilograms, 165, and multiply that times 2.2 pounds. So his weight will end up being, the answer is 363 pounds. Okay. So that's an example of how to do your weights, getting kilograms and pounds. So this is a vital skill for medical math in nursing, to be able to do that conversion. Let's talk about household measurements. You'll hear how we have teaspoons, tablespoons, cups, glasses. Because we have so many different spoons, especially in South Louisiana, we got our gumbo spoon, we got our sweet tea stirring spoon, we got our little bitty tiny teaspoons. They're not standardized, so we need a way to measure it, especially if we need to give 1 teaspoon of medicine to a patient. We need to be able to tell them when they're using a measuring cup exactly what 1 teaspoon equals, how many milliliters. So we're going to learn how to measure those and learn the conversions. When we are using the metric system, we use the metric system because it's universal. Okay. Our base weight tends to be in grams. Okay. Kilograms, like we learned just earlier, kilograms, not in pounds. Our length we measure in meters, like centimeters. And millimeters. For liquid, liters and milliliters. You'll hear those terms. So the issue is, why do I need to know the different parts of the metric system and how to convert that? A lot of times the ordered units often do not match the units on hand. So what the doctor ordered, I might not have that exact conversion available. For example, this problem says the physician orders 0.5 grams and you have a vial with each milliliter containing 250 milligrams. I got to be able to make both of these the same. So either I convert them both to milligrams or both to grams. So let's say I know I already have 250 milligrams right here. I can convert this. So I'm going from something bigger to a smaller way to measure. Instead of grams, grams are a lot bigger than a milligram. So I'm going to multiply this times 1,000. So 0.5, or I move that decimal point 3 places. You may have learned that. So when I move it 3 times, move it first time, it's 5, another one and another one. So it would give you 500. And now I have both of them with the same measurement of milligrams. So this is the metric system conversion chart. You might have heard something about King Henry. You go smaller. I usually draw this out. Kilograms, your basic unit like grams, milligrams. We don't usually use many hecto or deca or deci when we're doing conversions in the metric system for nursing math. Okay, we usually have kilograms, grams, milligrams. Okay. So if I am going this way, if I'm going from kilograms to milligrams, I'm going this way. I'm going to the right. So if I'm going to convert to a smaller unit, I move the decimal point to the right or I multiply. So this is where I'm going to multiply times 1,000. If I'm going from something teeny tiny like milligrams to kilograms, I'm going to move that decimal point to the left or divide by 1,000. So when you go to the right, you're going to multiply times 1,000. If I'm going to the left, I am dividing by 1,000. So it would be a good idea to write this on your scratch paper so you don't get confused when you encounter one of those problems. So let's look at one of the practice problems. How many milligrams are in 1 gram? So gram was right in the middle, and I'm going to milligrams. So I'm going to the right to something smaller. So when I do that, I need to multiply this 1 times 1,000. So your answer should be 1,000 milligrams. So that's how many milligrams are in 1 gram. The next one, this is a chart of common medication conversions. Memorize this. That's the easiest thing to do. If you don't memorize this, you are going to struggle throughout medical math and in nursing school and IV therapy. Okay, so please memorize this. Write this on index cards, make you Quizlets. Practice, practice, practice. So 1 gram is equal to 1,000 milligrams. 1 TSP, this is the abbreviation for teaspoon, is equal to 5 milliliters. 1 TBSP, this is tablespoon, is equal to 15 milliliters. We need to know that when we're pouring medicine. The doctor might tell you need to give your baby a teaspoon of medicine, and to be accurate, we need to pour it in a medicine cup and give approximately 5 milliliters. There are 3 teaspoons in each tablespoon. So each teaspoon's 5. So 5, 10, 15 equals 1 tablespoon. For 1 ounce or 1 flow ounce is equal to 30 milliliters. This is super important, especially when we do intake and output for a patient. When we're emptying their catheter bag or specipan with urine, we need to be able to measure how much urine they're outputting in milliliters. The same goes how much they're intaking. If they go get a 44-ounce drink, we need to know how many milliliters are in that 44 ounce. So every ounce is equal to 30 milliliters. Each 30 milliliters contains 2 tablespoons, which also contains 6 teaspoons. So there's 6 teaspoons in 30 milliliters. You might get a drug calculation where the final question is, how many teaspoons will you give? And if you answer it in milliliters, you're going to get that question wrong. 1 standardized cup is equal to 8 ounces. 8 ounces is equal to 240 milliliters. The way we get that is 8 ounces times this 30, because there's 30 milliliters in every ounce. So 8 times 30 would give you 240. 16 ounces equals 1 pound. 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. So if I am getting 1 liter of IV fluid, that is equal to 1,000 milliliters. And 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. So this is a super, super important conversion chart you need to memorize. So let's go to some practice problems. The first one, 2 teaspoons is equal to how many milliliters? As you recall, if you memorized or refer to your table to work these out, each teaspoon has 5 milliliters. So 5 times 2 would give you 10 milliliters. Okay. 32 ounces. How many milliliters are in 32 ounces? So we knew 1 ounce contains 30 milliliters. So I'm going to take 32 ounces times 30 milliliters, and that would give me 960 milliliters. So that's how much your patient consumed in intake, 960 milliliters. The next one is 2 cups. We know that each cup equals 8 ounces. So I have 8 ounces. So 8 times 2 would be 16 ounces. So that's how many ounces your patient would have. 45 milliliters is how many tablespoons. The capital TBS is another abbreviation for tablespoons. I want to know how many tablespoons. So each tablespoon contained 15 milliliters. So I have 45 milliliters. So 45 divided by 15 would give you 3 tablespoons. If you want to just sit there and say, I have 15 milliliters in each tablespoon, 15 plus 15 is 30, plus 1 more 15 equals 45. Some people prefer to do that. That's still a correct way to get your answer. 2 liters is equal to how many milliliters? We know that 2 liters was a larger thing, and I am on that table, and I'm going to milliliter, something smaller. So I'm going to multiply times 1,000, or move that decimal point 3 times. Your answer would be 2,000 milliliters. So if I have a 2-liter of Coke and I drank that whole thing, I had 2,000 milliliters. 4 teaspoons, and they want to know how many milliliters are in 4 teaspoons. We know that each teaspoon contains 5 milliliters. So 5 times the 4 would give us 20 milliliters. Or I can go 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 5 is 20. Okay, you can do it either way. 2 ounces, and I want to know how many tablespoons are in 2 ounces. When you looked it up, normally in 1 ounce you had 2 tablespoons, but I have 2, so 2 times 2 is 4. So the correct answer would be 4. Next one, 2 grams, and I want to know how many milligrams. So I'm going from something larger to something smaller, so I'm going from moving to the right or multiplying times 1,000, or you could be moving that decimal point 3 times if you were taught that way. This would equal 2,000 milligrams. So the key for this, memorize that conversion chart so you don't get messed up. And when you get your scratch paper, write all them out so you don't get them confused when you get to your actual exam. Military time. Why do we use military or international or universal time? You might hear any of those terms used interchangeably. Because nursing is a 24-hour job. If something happened at 11 p.m., and I just write 11 in the chart, do I know was it a.m. or p.m.? So we use military time. So let's say it's in the morning. Okay, midnight is 0000, so that's midnight. If you're working night shift, 1 o'clock in the morning is 0100. 2 o'clock in the morning, 0200. 3 o'clock, 0300. 4 o'clock in the morning, 0400. You might hear, if you're military, they use those terms. 5 in the morning is 0500. 6 in the morning is 0600. 7 in the morning is 0700. 8 in the morning is 0800. 9 in the morning is 0900. 10 in the morning would be 1000. 11 in the morning, 1100. 12 is going to be 1200. So that is like lunchtime. Once I get after lunch, I'm going to go to the numbers in the red. This is 1300, so that's 1 p.m. 1400 is 2 p.m. 1500 is 3 p.m. 1600 is 4 p.m. 1700 is 5 p.m. 1800 is 6 p.m. 1900 is 7 p.m. 2000 is 8 p.m. 2100, 9 p.m. 2200 is 10 p.m. 2300 is 11 p.m. So this explains how to do it. And I usually draw this clock on my scratch sheet of paper and write the numbers out so you don't get confused. So if I have something that was 23:59, this means this was 11:59 p.m. Okay? 22:38, this means it was 10:38 p.m. So in the evening shift. So let's look at practice writing some in military time. So 5:30 p.m., the correct answer would be 1730. And we don't put a semicolon between when we write out in military or universal time. 9:30 a.m. would be 0930. 7:10 in the morning a.m. 0710. 11:59 p.m. 23:59. 1:25 p.m. That would be 13:25. 6:42 p.m. would be 18:42. And 12:02 a.m. would be 0002. And we do this because it would be confusing in charts knowing when things occurred and when your meds are due, because it would be in 2100 or 1600. They are written like that on your MARs. And we need to be able to know that time and give the medicines at the correct time. The last conversions that you're going to learn are converting temps from Fahrenheit to Celsius. A lot of our facilities do like their temps in Celsius. The thermometers can either take it in Celsius or Fahrenheit. You can convert. But if you took one and you needed it in a certain way, we need to know how to convert that. So this is the easiest formula. There's one that has fractions in it, and that just messes everybody up because you get very apprehensive seeing it. So this one's super easy. So if I am looking for Celsius, and I have what the degrees in Fahrenheit is. So Celsius equals Fahrenheit minus 32. Okay, we do what's in parentheses first and divide by 1.8. Memorize this formula. Memorize. So let's say the patient's temp was 90 in Fahrenheit. So I'm going to substitute 90, and I'm going to subtract the 32, and that gave me 58. Now I'm going to take 58 and divide that by 1.8, and the answer would be 32.22 Celsius. And if we round that to the nearest tenth, it would be 32.2. Because just think, when you're taking somebody's temp, you normally don't sit there and say you're 101.5876. Normally they say you're 101.4, you're 101.5. So usually the temps are to the nearest temp. So let's learn the formula for converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. So say I know what Celsius is. So I'm taking that degrees Celsius times that 1.8. I'll do this part first, and then I add the 32 degrees. So say the example was 37 degrees Celsius. I'm going to multiply that times 1.8. When you multiply 37 times 1.8, you would get 66.6, and we're going to add the number 32 to it. And your answer would be 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So this was just your formula, getting from Celsius to get to Fahrenheit, and from Fahrenheit, which way you need to go. It's just a reminder, use these formulas. Okay, I'll try to use a lot of visuals in my PowerPoints and presentations and practice problems, so you have a chance to understand this. So let's look at some practice conversions, and we're going to round these to the nearest tenth. First one, 35 degrees Celsius, and I am going to find Fahrenheit. So I'm going to take that 35 degrees Celsius times 1.8 and add 32 to the answer. And you should come out with 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be the first answer. Our next problem is we know what it is in Fahrenheit, and I want to know what it is in Celsius. So I'm going to take that 101.2 in Fahrenheit, subtract 32. So your Fahrenheit, 101.2, subtract your 32, and then divide it by 1.8. And you would end up with 38.444444 forever. Rounded to the nearest tenth, because that number's less than 5, would be 38.4. The next one, we're going to find what Fahrenheit is because we know what Celsius is. So if I know what Celsius is, so it's 38.2 times 1.8. That would give you 68.76, and we're going to add 32 to it. And you would get 100.76. But our instructions said to round to the nearest tenth. So I need to make sure that's to the nearest tenth. So your final answer should be 100.8 for that one. The last one is 99.9 Fahrenheit, and I want to find what Celsius is. So I'm taking 99.9 minus 32. That equals 67.9. And I'm dividing by 1.8. And you would get 37.7222222 forever. And I'm rounding to the nearest tenth. So that 2 is less than 5, so it's going to just be 37.7. I hope this helps explain basic conversions and rounding. Continue watching for more videos. Good luck.